channel. So this is going to be a tutorial on the top part. So we're going to basically cut an off shoulder here, off shoulder body. So I want my top to start at 7, and you notice that I already marked half an inch here for the beginning of the top. So if I open this up, is on a fold like this into 2. The width I have here is my bust divided by 4 plus like extra 3 to 4 inches. That is the width of this fabric here. So now from the top here, like I said, I want my top to start at 7. Yours can start anywhere you want. And then if you look at the lines, you see that the next one is my armhole at 10, my under bust, my nipple line at 12, under bust at 15, and then my waist at 17.5, and then the length of the top at 23, but I added half an inch to it. So that's the full length you have here. So now what I'm going to do is to go up at this top line now and mark my shoulder divided by 2 minus 1.5. So my shoulder divided by 2 is 8, minus 1.5 is going to be 6.5 here, right? So I've marked it. And then what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to also go ahead and mark my bust measurement divided by 4 here, which is going to give me at least 10.5. And then I'm going to connect the 2 from here to here. And then after that, I'm going to come down to my, remember this is my waist, the nipple line, and the bust, under bust, and then the breast point, which is your nipple line, right? So I'm going to go ahead on my waist now and mark my bust point divided by 2. So 1 point of your bust to the other. So that is going to be 4 for me. So add half an inch to it, mark it, bring it up also here. And then I'm going to also connect all of them all the way down here. So I'm going to mark the same 4.5 down here too. So we're just basically trying to make a bustier off shoulder, which I already have a tutorial on how to do that on my channel. So connect the 2 together, and then once it's done, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to come in here by 1.5. I don't want too much bustier on it, like I just want it to have a little cup. If you want to pad your own and do all that, maybe if you're on the bigger side, you can do 2 inch. That's from large and above, maybe 42 bust and above, you can do 2 inches down here. I'm just going to stick to 1.5 here. So guys, like I was saying, you're going to mark half your bust point plus half an inch all the way from on your nipple line, under bust line, waistline, and the end of the top. Mark it. That is this line I have here, which is 4.5 distance from here to here. In between here, I have 1.5 inch that I've marked all the way to the under bust line. I didn't mark it on the nipple line. So from this point now, I'm going to give it a curve, connecting it this way, like this. And then on this curve that I marked here, I'm going to come down by 2 inches here on this line. And then I'm going to connect it from here to here. Once you connect it, the next thing is going to be to mark at least 1.5 on this end, or if you want, you can do 1 inch here, half an inch at the top. So I can come down here by 1 inch and then connect it all the way to this point here, and then go up by half an inch here, and then also blend it in here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to come up on this line here by 1.5 and then blend it down into my armhole, because you need to extend it a little. So extend it from after where this curve is by 1.5, which is here, and then I'm going to bring it down into my armhole again. So this is now my new armhole, just like we do in Princess Darts, right? So that is basically all we need to do. Now all we have to do is just to start to insert our measurements. So starting with the bust measurement divided by 4, like I said, 42, mark here, and then I'm going to take add back this 1.5 that I put here. I'm going to just put it in here, and then I'm just going to put in 2 inches of sewing allowance. That is it. The same thing at the waist, divided by 4, that is going to be 8.5. Take this 1.5 that I have here, put it back in, and then 2 inches of sewing allowance. Then down here, you can just use your hip measurement here if you want to, but this doesn't get all the way to my hip, so it's not really necessary. All I can do is just bring down this same measurement, but just put my hand out a little, because I understand that as I'm going down, it's going to widen. But although it doesn't reach my hip, but I can just use this one and just extend it like this, the outer line, extend it this way, and then I'm going to curve this one all the way to the bust. It's straight, so you can come down by 1.5 down and just give it a slight curve. This front has this basic waist down here. So before we do that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come down from my waist by at least 4 inches here. If you want, you can. I'm doing 4 inch because I know I'm going to take away half an inch from it for my seam allowance. So really I'm going to be ending with about 3.5 down from here. So mark it here, and then I'm going to connect it all the way to this point here. Remember, you're still going to trace this same thing on a lining too. So that is it. I'm going to go ahead and then cut all this out now. So guys, this is what we're working with here. So that is it. But for the back panel now, so guys, this is the back panel. Like I said, the same width as the front. Bust divided by 4 plus extra 4 inch is the width here, and it's on a fold, but I'm going to be splitting it open later. And then I went ahead and marked 1 inch from this, so the whole thing as my zipper allowance. So now the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and the lines I have here, like I said, my top is starting at 7. I have half an inch at the top, my armhole line, nipple line, under bust line, and waistline. You notice that I didn't mark where the top is going to stop. This is because we're going to determine that using the front panel. So I'm going to then go ahead. All my measurements here are going to be starting from this line. The one in front started from the fold, right? So now I'm going to start after the line, this white line, the zipper line, my bust divided by 4. Go ahead and mark it wherever that is for you. I'm going to mark mine. Come up here, my bust, sorry, my shoulder divided by 2 minus 1.5, that is going to give me 6.5. Connect the two together like this, and then once it's done, I'm going to come down to my waist, which is this last line here. Waist divided by 4. I'm going to also mark that here. So once you mark it, I'm also going to come in then and mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus half an inch, like we did before, continuously all the way like this. And then I'm going to mark it down. The next thing I'm going to do is to just go ahead and curve this line into this point here. Try not to make it too curved, right? So you can start from the middle one, which is your under bust line, and just curve the line. It's curved, then you need to start to look like a bustier, but the back is straight. So what I like to do is that I like to go from my under bust line and just try to blend this line into this point here, you see. So sewing it will not give it any curve at all. So just go from here now and blend it into this point here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is that on this line here, I'm going to extend it by 1 inch, which is already there. And then I'm going to blend it into this part here, into my armhole, you see. So that is basically it for our back. All I have to do now is just to add my seam allowances towards the my waist divided by 4. I already marked it. Add 2 inch of seam allowance to it. My bust divided by 4, I already marked it. Add 2 inch allowance to it. And then all I have to do is to go ahead and connect from the waist to the bust. And then once it's done, I'm going to go ahead and bring back the side pattern from my front. That is what I'm going to bring in now, which is this one here. And then using this here, I'm going to use it to know where I'm going to cut off the back. So you see where we stopped it here. So I'm going to place the waist. You see, it still falls in place like this. So it's something like this. It's supposed to look like this, Abby. So what I'm going to do now is, I know that it's supposed to stop here, using where my armhole falls in, the bust, everything. So it's supposed to stop somewhere here. Now I'm going to remove this, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to roll this one straight across. The back is going to be straight across. It's not going to have any curve or anything. Reduce the upper back. This time around, I'm going to do almost 2 inches. If you want, you can even do 2.5, but I'm going to do 2 inches, and then connect it all the way to this point here. Well, let me do 2.5. Bring it down some more, because I want it to be deep at the back, you see. So now that is it. All I have to do is just to go ahead and cut from here into this, and then the rest. So guys, this is what we are working with. 2 pieces at the center back here. You're going to cut lining for each of them. This, and then also for the two sides. This is going to fit back in here. This is going to fit back in here. The same for the front. You're going to also go ahead and trace out your lining for the front. That is going to look something like this on this side, this on this side, and then with this one in the center like this. If you want your V to be more pronounced, like the angle for the center one, bring down your top a little. But I didn't want to bring it down because her own looked cropped, so I didn't want to bring it down and then it will be covering the design in front of the skirt, right? So this is what, but if you another way to make it look like this is longer and still maintain the length you want is that you're going to take this one up. So maybe instead of doing 3 like I did here, you can just do 2 inches here on the side. That way, the more angle you give it from coming from the side, the more it will make this one look longer. You understand? So now I'm going to go ahead and trace my lining, and then we'll come back and then put in our sleeve and everything. So guys, this is what we have at the moment. You see that I've gone ahead and joined the 2 back panel. So if you're using lining, you can use lining to turn everything over. You see where I joined the 2 piece at the back here. This is my seam here. You see, so first join the curve of the back on this side, join this other side too, and then I use bias to turn it over on the end, turn it over. But if you have your lining, turn it over. Just use half an inch to sew it here, half an inch to sew it here, flip it out, iron it down. And then the next thing is going to be to take one of those straps that we made here, and then gather it at the bottom here. Make sure that it aligns with the end of your cloth. Don't make it longer to come down, because that will increase the length. You see where the body of my cloth stops. You see the thing that the ruffle I joined, where the body of my cloth stops is where the length of this one also stops. So it's no longer than this. Even on this side too, you see where my pattern is, you see where the end of the top is. That's after I've already used bias to sew this one here, to turn it over. Like for this one here, I use lining in front. If you want, you can even iron in like cup and padding to it. So this is it here. Like what I'm saying is, you see how this part here is now. I just use half an inch to, I took my 3 pieces of the front panel. You see the first seam here, the second seam here, join it together. Did the same thing on my lining. You see my seams here, and then use half an inch to join the upper part, use half an inch to join this part, and then put my hand in here and switched it around. So that's how I was able to get this here. So now the next step is that I'm going to iron it out, or you can just go ahead directly and start to join this at the bottom and at the top. So you're going to join it from, remember this is my armhole, so I'm going to join it from this point to this point, and then from this end to this. You're going to try to stick to the length of your top, right? So where my top stops is where the end of this ruffle is going to stop also. And then I'm going to gather every other thing in between like this at the lower part of this here, and then also take this one here and gather it at the upper part of this here, all the way to where the before the armhole. Once it's done, I'm going to take the 2 of them here and close up the armhole. So close up this armhole, close up this armhole, all the way to the end of the top, all the way to the end of the top. And then if you notice my back panel, I also did the same thing on each side here, and then I used 1 inch to close it up here, but I'm still going to add a zip. You see, this is the upper part, the armhole, the lower part. The thing is that I'm going to be using a zip that will face down, because this is supposed to be fitted at the bottom, and if I put a zip going up here, I won't be able to wear it. So you have to use it, or except you want to use the zip that fixes a jacket zip. You know, that zip that you can be able to separate, except it's that type of zip. But if it's not that zip, then you have to make sure your zip is facing downwards. So I'm using ordinary normal zip, so I'm going to just put a zip facing down towards the end here. So I'm going to go ahead and join everything together. So guys, this is it here. You see the top here. Like I was telling you, you just have to go ahead and add this ruffle at the end back so that we can cut our sleeve. So this is what I'm using for my sleeve. If you look at it now, you see this is the length. I've gone ahead and made a casing at the upper part, and then I made a casing at the bottom part. So the length I have here after making my casing on both ends is about 18. So that means I started with 21, because to make the casing I needed about 1.5 inch to fold it to make my casing. The width I have here, guys, you can make yours as exaggerated as you want, but remember my fabric is not enough, so I'm using 14 as the width of the fabric. And remember, this is on a fold, it's folded into 2. So I'm going to close it up now because I have 2 of them here. This is the first one here, and then this is the second one. Both are the same length, and I've already also made the casing here. So now I'm going to go ahead. By the casing, I mean I've folded the upper part with about 1.5 so that my elastic can pass here, and then I've also folded the bottom so my elastic can pass here, if you can see it. So now I'm going to take the sleeve here. You can just use one side, you don't have to use both ends. So take your sleeve, and then you're going to put it to one end of it like this, just like this, right? When you finish, you might notice that one is longer than the other. Just trim it off a little. Like, I mean, one is poking out. It's usually maybe the back panel is longer, so you need to cut it a little. And once you do that, you're going to take it now, and then I'm going to draft out what the armhole here looks like, you see. And then I'm going to cut this off. Once I cut it out, all I have to do now is just to take this here the way it is, and then I'm going to take it and join it to the armhole. So this is one side of my armhole, like this here, you can see. So one side of my armhole, I'm just going to take one side of this like this and join it to this like this, you see. Do it on the other side. So take this other side, join it to one side of the armhole, and then close up the side seam all the way on both sides. So guys, this is it here. I'm done. So this is the skirt, right? So I've shown you this before, and then like towards the end here, I try to just top stitch it instead of, you see, I only have 4 buttons here. Don't mind the color of the button, I'm still going to remove them. These are just what I have at the moment, but you notice that I just top stitched this part here. I just stitched it down, you see, from this point here, I just top stitched it on like this and stopped somewhere here where I want the slit to start. So it depends on you where you want your slit to start. If you want, you can add button all the way to the end, but I don't find it to be necessary. So that is it for the skirt. Once you insert your sleeve, you sew one side, sew the back side. All you have to do is just to close up from the armhole, close it, join it into this part here, and come down all the way to the end. You're going to go to the other side, do the same thing. So once it's done, add your elastic at the top. The elastic I used at this upper part here is 5 inch. The elastic I use at the bottom part here is 10 inch. But remember, it can differ for a smaller person because I want it really snug, right? So but if you so that is including the seam allowance. So probably I'm left with about 4 inch at the upper part here, because I just cut out elastic that is 5 inch at length, used it at the upper part on both sides, right? So for a smaller person, you might do 4 inch elastic. Just small elastic is what you need, because you want it to be fitted, so that way you can pull it down as off shoulder, or you can pull it on top of your shoulder as like to act like a sleeve. And then at the end here, I just use 10 inch elastic. So this is it here. This is the size of the elastic I used here, this tiny one. That's what I used. So that is basically it here. This is the back of the top. Like I said, your zip will face down. This is my zip here, and you notice that it's facing downwards, right? This is the neckline of my top. My zip is facing towards the end, and you see what we did here. You notice from the length, the back is straight, the front has this V or C cut, like the basic waist, but the back goes straight and stops there. This is what the top looks like, the whole length of the top here. So that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.